You've seen salt and pepper shakers on your dining room table probably every day of your life. We all know how easy it is to not even notice something as unassuming and ever-present as these two simple seasonings. So let's answer a question you never thought to ask. How did salt and pepper end up on every table in America? What's so special about them? Why salt and pepper instead of any of the other spices? Salt probably seems to have a more obvious answer than pepper. It is, in fact, one of the essential keys to life. The sodium part of these sparkling sodium chloride crystals is the most important bit. It controls nerve impulses and maintains fluid balance, and no human can live without it. So it's no surprise that early humans began seeking it out. It was a change in human diets that sparked the interest in salt. The earliest humans got their daily dose of salt from eating the meat of animals, which was salt-rich because the animals knew where to find all the good salt licks. When our ancestors switched to a grain-heavy diet, not quite as rich in salt as the game they'd been hunting, they began following the paths left by animals to find their secret salt stash. This was vital if you weren't near the ocean where salt was easier to come by. Soon, these animal trails became highways and humans began trading in salt. It was, of course, much more precious back then, with no way of reaching salt deposits deep in the earth. Soon, salt was worth its weight in gold, and people were worth their salt. It was so important that many people used it in the place of money, and Roman soldiers were paid partially in salt, giving us the word salary. Its importance was of biblical proportions, with more references to it in the Bible than you can count on two hands. Its sanctity extended into the Middle Ages. If you've never noticed the overturned salt cellar in front of Judas in Leonardo da Vinci's The Last Supper, you will now. Then, spilled salt was an ominous symbol of impending doom. The list of references to the importance of salt goes on and on. You could rank the importance of guests at an 18th century banquet by their proximity to the salt cellar. The salt tax in France contributed to sparking the French Revolution. And if you need more, just open the Oxford English Dictionary. You'll find 4 pages of references to salt. So it's not hard to see why there's a pot of salt in front of you. Our history is propped up by salt. But why pepper? Well, as with many peculiarities of modern Western world, you can probably blame the Romans. Pepper was important in ancient China and India long before any Europeans knew about it. They used it in traditional medicine as well as food, and 2 species were cultivated, long pepper and the black pepper we love today. Soon it became important in Egypt too, and it was considered important enough to be stuffed up the nostrils of Ramses II's mummy. And when the Romans marched into Egypt, they became obsessed. Some reports from the time suggest that 120 Roman ships were sent to India every year to bring black pepper. Politicians at the time complained of the staggering amount of Roman money handed to India in exchange for pepper every year. Apparently, the equivalent of $100 million today. When Visigoths took control of a Roman city, the requested ransom was a ton of pepper. But the popularity of pepper didn't collapse with the Roman Empire. About 75% of recipes in medieval cookbooks call for spices, and they were dished out with a heavy hand. Scholars speculate that it was probably the high price and exotic nature of spices that made them so popular. But it wasn't just pepper that they loved. The modern use of pepper can probably be tracked back to King Louis XIV. He was an infamously picky eater who wasn't too pleased about Europe's love of spice. His palace was a symbol of the height of style at the time, so when he demanded that his food be seasoned with only salt and pepper, it's likely the rest of the world followed. His cooks are also the reason Western menus serve salted dishes before sweet desserts, even though they were all served together before. It seems so obvious to us to feature this black and white pair as the main attraction of our dinner tables. But they came a long way and crossed many ancient seas to get where they are today. It would probably all be different if French cuisine had never become the basis of Western gastronomy. In an alternate universe, their tables probably look quite different. But it'll take a lot to topple salt and pepper from their throne. They are, very clearly, the kings of Western food. And that's how salt and pepper ended up on every table in America.